Today we're going to cut straight to the chase and get right into a video about how people tend to be incredibly inefficient when they are setting up for big lifts. I work a lot with blind people, and blind people are especially terrible at this because there's just so much overthinking, there's so much dancing around. And imagine if you are about to go for a PR, let's say on your back squat, which is gonna be our main focus of today, and you are messing around with that bar, getting set under it for 30 seconds, and then take another 30 seconds with the bar on your back before you're actually squatting. You are leaking energy like crazy, you are wildly inefficient, you're putting yourself in danger, and we are leaving a lot of gains and pounds on the table. So we absolutely can't have that. And today, because I've gotten sick enough of encountering this so much in the blind community, I am going to make a tutorial about how to fix this in a very simple way. Now, who the heck am I to be able to speak about this? I'm Evan Sorbrock. I have a master's in kinesiology. I'm known as the blind strength coach, and that's because I am legally blind with LHON, and I've been doing this for well over a decade now, particularly specializing in helping the rest of the blind community for a very long time. I've been able to do a lot of things when it comes to actually doing keynote speeches and in-person seminars, helping people physically in person fix a lot of these things, as well as fix a lot of problems remotely through my coaching services. And my articles through BLINDFITNESS are cited all over the world, and I always keep finding out about different grad students, things like that, who are citing my work and their work. So, been known around the globe for my academic prowess, but then also I put it into practice myself as well. I compete in adaptive strongman and strongman outright. I've been able to win some different competitions, including most recently the Adaptive Strength World Championships. So if that's not enough for you to pay attention, go ahead and switch videos. But for everybody else who is here, especially those with visual impairments, we're gonna make sure that we simplify this and make it more accessible for you. So there's gonna be audible descriptions for you to be able to understand, and I want you to be able to really internalize some of these different cues so you're able to get the maximum benefit out of these techniques and not be wasting your time under the bar instead of actually getting after the different exercises, okay? We're gonna break this down really simply, and if you have any questions, go ahead and shoot them in the comments or reach out through Instagram or my email. Both are at caneandablefitness, and the email is caneandablefitness@gmail.com. You can also dig into a lot more fitness things through our YouTube channel, Instagram, TikTok, and even our YouTube for these long form videos that you're finding right now, or plenty of other short form material. So what I'm gonna do first is we're going to practice with a broomstick, okay? We wanna make sure that you are practicing these things not under heavy load, not under any semblance of duress, so we're able to mentally focus on what the heck we're doing in our setup without any weight on our back, okay? Then we're gonna talk about how to start progressing and making sure that you are actually putting these things into practice, not just on heavy loads where you really have to get worked up, but make it more natural, because all of our warm-ups are gonna be doing it the same exact way. So I'm gonna take my broom, I'm gonna put it on my back, nice and on my traps, not on my neck, the way I'm gonna be doing a regular barbell back squat. And what I want you to do is bend your knees gently, like you are going to take the bar out of the rack, like you've just ducked your head under, arrange your arms, put it there just below your neck. Remember, squeezing your upper back nice and together, keeping your abs nice and tight, and then standing it up. And from here, we can practice our approach, where our unrack really, where we are in essentially our squat stance, and we're gonna have our feet nice and even because we stood it up nice and comfortably in our strongest position instead of a weird stagger stance or anything. And then you're gonna take a half step back. So you're gonna have one of your feet, in this case my right foot, in alignment with the toes in a straight line with the middle of my left foot. Then I'm going to do the exact same on my left foot. I'm gonna slide it back to where the toes are in line with the middle of that right foot. So it's like basically a half step, a full step, like our foot length, and then I'm going to even up, okay? So again, it's practice step, pick up, baby step, a little bigger step, even up, okay? So half step, full step, even up, however you want to remember that in your head, but it's not going to be dramatically stepping back. We're never doing a giant lunge back or really reaching back very much. We're just shifting that weight with the pickup, stay nice and steady, and we're gonna be able to keep our center of gravity from being too extended by taking a little step, a little bit bigger step, and then evening up. And then you're gonna go and do your squat. Okay, I have caught a lot of people with vision loss and visual impairments doing this completely wrong throughout the years, where they dance underneath the bar, they keep rearranging, they keep shimmying their hips around, and I like to call it they're just dancing around. So once they unrack the bar, they do the same thing where they're swiveling back and forth. And if they didn't have collars on the bar, they would literally be throwing those weights off. And you'll even find that sometimes where people are shifting side to side, not finding that right position, taking literally sometimes 8-10 steps in order to get in position, and then thinking about it, and then, you know, okay, I'm gonna have the right posture, I'm gonna brace my core, make sure that's nice and tight. Instead of finding that tightness when they pick it up, taking those little steps in order to conserve energy, being in their squat stance, and then getting after it. Okay, so now we can put the broom away. And we're gonna think about this. I'm gonna face away from the camera, and we are going to do this actually pulling a bar out of a rack. Again, it's going to be the exact same, whether it's an empty bar and throwing more and more plates on until you're getting to your heaviest set. This all needs to be the same, because then you're gonna have less mental strain and less duress, less urgency, and less bad habits kicking in once you get to your heavier weights, because you've been practicing this with the lighter weights. So even when you're warming up, you need to treat this seriously. Best powerlifter of all time, Ed Cohn, did this as well. You can see that there's so much intention in all of his warm-up sets, and he treats his warm-up sets like a real working set, and that is what leads to a lot more success in the working sets. And again, especially in the blind community, we're going to be able to ingrain those tactile habits. It's going to become second nature for us, so we're able to do the right thing consistently and not have to overthink about it. Instead, we get to let exercise be the stress instead of all the crazy logistics that we could be focusing on, because you're ingraining this pattern, so then it becomes second nature, and you're able to just do hard squats. You're able to do hard bench presses, deadlifts, whatever way we're simplifying the system in order to make sure that our approach is consistent, safe, and efficient, then we're gonna be able to do that. So back here with the back squat, I'm gonna make sure to tactically feel where I need to be on the bar to make sure that I'm nice and symmetrical. I'm gonna crank in here, make sure that's on my upper back meat and not on my neck. A lot of people really misunderstand where they're supposed to put the bar. But if I'm going high bar, I'm gonna do this still on my traps. If I'm going low bar, I'm gonna go a little bit lower, but I tend to go high bar. So I'm gonna squeeze those shoulder blades together, have a nice shelf there, and it's really tempting to catch this a lot of times in the blind community where we arch our back in order to push our hips underneath. No, we wanna act like we're gonna get punched the entire time. We're gonna keep our abs nice and on, and I'm gonna crank my feet underneath to where it's gonna be, I'm just able to push my hips through with my ribs staying down, abs nice and tight. I'm able to be tall and just boom, pop up that bar just a little bit. Now I'm too darn tall for this rack, so I'll bump my head here and there, but we're gonna be able to keep those ribs down. And again, with that intention of just popping up and nice and steady here, I'm gonna take that little step, a little bigger step, even up. And I am plenty far away from the rack and those hooks in order to make sure I'm not hitting anything. I also, if I would have been in the rack, wouldn't have walked all the way to the back of the rack and hit the back of it. I've had people do that before as well. So again, I'm not dancing around, I'm not doing anything like that. I was able to find my squat stance and go from there. Now, if you do have a slightly wider squat stance, if you're like super wide and really push those knees out and hinge down, then you might want to take those little steps, going a little bit out, and then take an extra step, making sure you're not leaning one side or the other. So if you do have an incredibly wide stance, you might have to account for that. But for the most part, you're gonna be able to do the little step, even up. And then when we re-rack it, we're able to keep nice and tight. And I wanna move horizontally until I impact both sides and keep that pressure forward on those hooks. And then I'm going to set it back down, okay? Call that the contact and slide method. That's going to allow us to make sure that we're nice and safe, even putting it back. And if you did your good job of practicing with the broomstick, practicing with lighter weights, of being nice and even with your little foot shifts in order to be efficient and freaking get after it on your unrack, then the re-rack is really easy because it's simply moving forward, okay? I could go on all day about this, but I think you guys get it by now. It's really just going to take some very consistent and conscious practice until it becomes second nature. Remember, those light sets are practice to be able to do a really good job. Work on staying really tight. It's not just a time to throw the bar on your back and start wobbling around, then hit a couple squats and just throw it back in. It's a time to be very, very conscientious and intentional about developing this skill, because then instead of taking the 30 seconds, I've literally timed this before in some different blind lifters, where they are working on getting bigger and stronger and having more capacity, but it takes them forever with a heavy weight relatively for them to actually get in the position and then start squatting. And by then, that weight has started to bear down on them. They're losing their posture. They're losing all kinds of ability to root into the ground. We're just in a really bad place. Imagine having to run your fastest mile possible, but you started it out by getting to the track doing a 100-meter sprint. That's exactly what's going on if we're dancing around and doing way too much before we actually start the exercise that we're trying to work on. And again, it becomes a big safety issue eventually. I want to make sure that our community isn't falling into that trap. Again, if you want me to do a series about this kind of stuff when it comes to any other lifts, ways that we're able to simplify these systems, understand tactically what we're supposed to do, and then turn that into some audible cues for you guys so you're able to practice that yourselves and be safer and stronger, go ahead and let me know in the comments.